everyone, and welcome to another solo episode of the Stream of Art podcast. My name is Michelle Monette. I am a guitarist, a singer-songwriter, a teacher, and a mentor. And today I wanted to hop on and talk about how it's okay to change your mind. I think for probably a lot of us, this is certainly the case for me, but I would venture a guess that this is true for many people. There's maybe this sense that we have to stick with something once we've made a decision. And maybe that's part of why making decisions can be so challenging, because there's a sense of reaching a point of no return, but actually that can really work against us. There's a value to, committing to something and sticking with it and not flip-flopping and letting something go and moving on to the next thing and then the next thing and never getting momentum with whatever it is you're doing. But there's also a point of diminishing returns where you stick with something so stubbornly that it just doesn't work for you. And I had this experience recently, which is why I wanted to talk about it a little bit. There's two things. So in the last episode that I recorded just on my own, I talked about how I have moved into mentorship of musicians. So I've been teaching traditional music lessons for, I think, 13 years now, almost 14 years. And in that episode, I talked about how the traditional model of lessons just wasn't working for me anymore. It was feeling too confining. I felt like I had outgrown that particular container. And so after, a few years of trying to reckon with how I was going to approach teaching with all I know now that I've learned in healing my relationship with music, I really struggled to find something that worked, and had finally landed on mentorship because it felt more complete. There was a sense of having left something behind when I was doing lessons, because there wasn't room for all of this other stuff that I had learned, all this other stuff I wanted to bring to the table that has helped me so immensely. And I wanted to be able to offer that to the musicians that I was teaching. So I won't go into too much detail because you can go back and listen to the last episode. It's titled Musical Flourishing. And I recently had an experience where it made me question my decision. I was so set on having this be the thing I'm doing, this mentorship. This is the right thing. And that the lessons are old news and I'm leaving them behind. And this is the new me. This is where I'm going forward. But I had this recent experience that made me question that and go, is there a way for me to reintroduce lessons? So not to go backward and teach lessons the way I was before, but is there a way to teach lessons from this new place I'm operating from? Something that feels more truthful and more complete and more aligned with who I've become as a musician and as a teacher. And, I spent a few days thinking about it, playing with this idea, playing with the possibility. So I think they're doing work outside my apartment door. So I was playing with the possibility of, approaching lessons in a new way. So opening it up, this is something I've written about before, the idea of playing with the question, what if? So rather than keeping myself stuck in this place of, this is the decision I've made and I'm going to stick with it, being able to open up to the possibility just by asking a question. What might that look like? What might that feel like to approach this thing that I had been doing for years and years in a different way? And so, long story short, I came to a decision to split my offering. So I still offer mentorship, and now I also offer lessons again. But they've taken on a little bit of a different shape. And I could tell it was the right decision because it felt very expansive and very truthful. And I realized actually in retrospect that there was a bit of a tension underneath the mentorship as being the entirety of what I was offering. And in bringing in lessons as an option again, in a bit of a different way, it actually helped to bring in some more refinement, some more clarity, some more precision with what I'm offering. Because ultimately, I want to be able to meet people where they are. And some musicians who will benefit from what I have to offer with lessons won't necessarily be ready for or interested in what I am offering with mentorship. So I'll give a quick little overview about what I'm doing with each offer. But ultimately, if any of this is lighting up something in you and you want to investigate further, I will have links to both my lesson page and my mentorship page, and you can just look a little bit further, send me a message if you're interested. But essentially, my focus with the lessons is all about helping guitarists and singers and songwriters express themselves fully with their unique musical expression. And specifically, it's about building the skills and the scaffolding so that they can do so with freedom and with ease. So there's an element of, building a really good foundation, which is something I'm a very strong believer in when it comes to learning music, having a really strong foundation, both in your instrumental proficiency, in musicianship, and then in your artistry. That goes a really long way to being able to express yourself freely. And so that's really where my interest is. So this is a little bit different than what I was doing before. Not completely different. This is just more of an expansion and more again of a refinement on what I was offering before, which is just more generally just anybody who wanted to learn guitar or vocals or how to write a song, they could come to me and I would help them with that. This is more specific. This is really tailored to those musicians who feel like they have music inside them that is their own, that they want to bring into the world. And I've had some students over the last couple of years and probably even going further back when that's what they really wanted. And now I feel like I can offer that in a much more precise way. So if someone is feeling that call, this is going to be for them. And this is ultimately a reflection of where I'm at in my own personal music journey. As I've become more and more of myself and I sound more and more like myself, it makes my experience with music way more fun and way more enriching. And I want to be able to help other musicians have that same experience. So not my exact experience. I don't want to help people sound more like me. I want them to sound like them. That is really exciting to me musically these days. I hear a drill. I don't know if it's getting picked up in the mic. We're having work done in the corridor of the apartment building here. They're putting in new carpets and painting and removing the light sconces, and I think we're getting new hardware on the door too. So apologies if you're hearing some drill noises in the back. That's all that is. So the mentorship portion of what I offer is all the stuff that is going to help somebody have a more rich and fulfilling musical experience. So this is sort of beyond just the being able to express themselves musically, although that's a really important part of it. But this is about the entire experience, because really when it comes to being a musician, it's about embodying what it means to be a musician. And that is going to mean interacting with music, daily. Generally, that's what we want is every day. But as long as it's regularly, you want to be engaging with music, whether you're practicing, whether you're writing, whether you're playing or performing or jamming with people. You want to be doing the musical activities that constitute being a musician. And that can be a real challenge. This is something I see come up again and again and again with students where, they come for a lesson and we go over some stuff together and they're really pumped, they're really excited, and they have all this new stuff they can work on. And then they come the next week and they haven't worked on any of it. And it's not because of a lack of desire. It's because there's often many different barriers to going from not doing the music work to doing the music work. And this is going to depend on the person. And I find that this is especially challenging for adults. With kids, you just have less baggage. But with an adult, you're going to have greater demands on your time, on your energy, on your attention. You're going to have more responsibilities. You're going to have more mental barriers, more emotional barriers. And that's going to just make the entire musical experience very dissatisfying. Because not only are you not doing the work that is going to help make you better, which is a big part of having a fulfilling musical experience, is that you are making progress and you're having an easier and easier time expressing yourself. But you're not doing the thing you say matters. And this is another idea that I wrote a blog post about, the idea that it's important to do what you say, to do as you say. And it comes down to integrity and authenticity, and integrity not from a moralistic perspective, but just in terms of operating from a place of wholeness within yourself. So if you're somebody who really cares about music, but you aren't actually demonstrating that through your action, you're going to experience cognitive dissonance. And that's deeply uncomfortable. And again, I really am not a fan of this idea that, anybody who doesn't practice, they're just lazy. Because I have students who come to me who are, in great shape, or they're great at coding, or they have all these other things that they do, and they know, but there's just some kind of a barrier when it comes to music, and there's so many different things. And that has just been really heartbreaking for me, feeling like I was giving them everything they needed to be able to have this amazing relationship with music, but they just weren't able to get going. And that's been a big motivating factor in having this offering, this mentorship offering, where I can actually specifically help with that. Also, to help musicians, have their own musical experience. And this, again, ties with how important I think it is to have your own unique musical expression. I think everybody's musical experience is inevitably going to be different. This idea that there's only one right way to be a musician just has never resonated with me. It's just not the case. And I think it holds a lot of people back from pursuing music because there's this sense that, I'm not doing X, Y, or Z, so what's the point? Like, I can't do that. It doesn't fit with the way my life looks, or it doesn't fit with what I actually want from my life. So I really want to challenge this idea that there is one way to pursue music. There are as many ways as there are musicians. And it's so important for folks to be able to have a way to figure out what they really want, and then to be able to build a life that supports that, both internally and externally. And so much, again, of what I'm incorporating is what I learned as I was healing my own relationship with music, which was, I don't know if I've actually talked about that too much on the podcast, but I do have a blog post where I wrote about that. I can link that in the show notes. And I may have talked about this in the last episode too. Anyway, so I made a lot of changes in my life that were actually not directly related to music. A lot of it was doing mindset work. A lot of it was building better habits outside of music. And those changes over time made it so much more engaging to be a musician because it just amplified the quality of my music time. I felt better overall, which meant I was able to be more present with my music and to enjoy it more and to have a better balance too. So anyways, there's so many different elements, but basically I've been able to get to a point where my musical experience feels very joyful and rich and fulfilling for me because it reflects who I am and what I want. And I think that's only going to get better and better and better. So this idea of musical flourishing from the inside out, it's not a one and done thing. It's more like a scale. And it's something that you want to be paying attention to over time. And you make changes as you change and as your life changes. So that's been the big thing, having this separation now, lessons, mentorship, but they are two sides of the same coin. So I can have somebody who is only interested in the musical stuff and we can focus on that. And then I can have people who are more interested in the stuff beyond that. Or I can have somebody who wants to do both and we can do both. So I feel like this gives me just exactly the right amount of clarity with enough breadth that I can really bring everything to the table that I have to offer that can help somebody with their music. And the other thing that made me think about this topic, the idea of being able to change your mind, is I actually recorded another podcast episode like a week after the last one. That was my intention, had been to get into doing this regularly. And I recorded another one, but I actually recorded it with video. I thought, oh, this will be a great chance for me to get into finally recording video and getting a sense of what that's like. And so I did it. I was really proud of myself. You know, I set everything up and I used my phone to record video, and I did an almost hour-long podcast. And the next day I started editing, and you know, it was very slow going because I have very little experience editing video. But it was a good start. I was really excited about it. But I don't know, the momentum just died. And I just couldn't get back into it. And every time I thought about sitting down to work on it, I felt so much resistance to it. And it's entirely possible that there was something else going on. I could have worked through that. But the conclusion I came to is that I actually wasn't feeling good about the episode anymore. I think it was just too long and a little too rambly. And I also had lost interest in doing video for these episodes. I decided that I like the idea of these just being audio only because it's so much faster for me to record these and then edit them. And then to have video just be exclusive to my own YouTube channel. And this made me think about this idea of the sunk cost fallacy. This is one of the things that can keep us, you know, in a marriage that isn't working, or at a job that we hate, or sticking with a project or a hobby far past the point of our enjoying it. Because there's this idea that, well, I've put all this time, or I've put all this energy, maybe you've invested a lot of money into it. And there's a sense of, oh, well, it's too far gone. Like I've been at it for too long. I can't stop. Or maybe there's a sense of if I stop now, I'm a failure. But none of that time, none of those resources are ever wasted. There's always something to learn. And so, like I said, this was an episode that was almost an hour. So I spent almost an hour of my time recording, and I spent probably about an hour just with the initial editing. But I don't see any of that as wasted time. I was ultimately okay letting go of the episode because it felt better. And I could feel that release in my body when I made that decision too, to just let it go and just not go back to it. And that's how I knew it was definitely the right decision. And I really appreciated the fact that I took the time to do that, because it makes me feel more able to handle just recording video, period. I know I can do it. I was able to make it work. I had started doing the editing, so it's definitely something I can do, and I feel more bolstered to get my YouTube started finally. So none of that was wasted time. And I learned something. It was maybe just the path of least resistance for me to start getting comfortable with recording myself in video. So the episode, I still have it. I don't think I'm going to finish editing the video part. I think that is done. I may edit the audio version and maybe I'll put that up on our Discord or something. I don't know. I think the episode was okay. I think it is going to require quite a bit of editing to make it palatable, make it easy to listen to. So we'll see. Again, I can always change my mind, right? But I think that's something that these two situations I found myself in is really opened me up to is just being more willing to change my mind, especially when it feels like I'm changing my mind in the direction of greater truth or greater expansion. And both of these decisions felt that way to me. It felt not like a going backwards. I wasn't running back to my old lessons. I was looking at them in a new way, and I was bringing forward something new. And I'm not abandoning this episode just because it was hard or whatever. It just stopped feeling right to me. It felt right enough for me to do it, but not right enough for me to finish. And I would rather now use the time that I save, not finishing with the editing, and put that towards something that does light me up, that does feel like the right fit. So going forward, that is going to be my sort of challenge to myself, to be more willing to let go of things and to change my mind when my body is telling me this thing isn't right. You know, when I'm feeling a lot of resistance, that's just my body just saying, hold up a minute. There might be something here that needs to be adjusted or let go of. And I would invite you listening to consider this in your own life as well. Like, where have you been holding fast to something that is maybe not to your benefit anymore? Where can you soften and release the gripping around so that you can open your mind just to the possibility that maybe another choice is available and that it's okay to change your mind. We are always changing. Life is always changing. It's this idea of being able to embrace impermanence, right? That's I think it's at the heart of Buddhism. Just learn how to change when it feels right. And again, if you find yourself doing a lot of flip-flopping where you can't seem to stick with something long enough to build momentum, well, that's a pattern, and then that's something, you can address if you get to that point. But this is more for the people who are like me, who get pretty stubborn and who will stick with something just for the sake of sticking with it. It's not helpful. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. Hopefully I kept this quick enough. Okay, it's almost a half hour. That was still longer than I meant to, but I will work on it. I do want to come back for these. I want to keep them nice and short and just have them be kind of a raw, unfiltered look at what I'm thinking about in the moment. Feel free to explore the links in the show notes. I'm going to have my website there and links to my lesson page and my mentorship page if you are a musician and you're interested in checking those out. You are welcome to send an email to me at either streamofartpodcast@gmail.com, or if you just want to send me an email, especially if you're a musician or you want to talk about something music related, you can send me an email to Monette at michellemonettemusic.com. And until next time, change your mind and don't feel bad about it. See you all in the next episode. Bye.